Don't run. Say thank you. Growing up felt less like a childhood and more like basic training for a job you never applied for. Every move, word, and blink had a script. Now you can't even send a text without proofreading it like it's going in a museum. You second-guess your tone in emails, your face in Zoom calls, and whether you're standing too casually in a group photo. The message was clear. Natural equals wrong. You didn't just learn manners, you learned to rehearse your personality. Today, your inner monologue sounds like a judgmental director yelling, "Take it again, but less weird." You're not socially anxious, you're just still trying to avoid getting the look for breathing wrong. Number 14, the guilt trips. Oh, the guilt trips. After all I've done for you, you're not sure if you're their child or their emotional retirement plan. Guilt was less of a feeling and more of a lifestyle. It came free with dinner and doubled as dessert. Want to have fun? Canceled. Because someone sacrificed once in 1989, and you better act like it saved your life. Now, guilt follows you like a Netflix subscription, always on, always charging. You say yes to things you hate. You apologize when other people bump into you. Saying no feels like kicking a puppy while pushing your grandmother down the stairs. And even when you're totally justified, that internal voice whispers, "Wow, after everything they did for you, you didn't learn boundaries. You learned performance-based worth. And now even your calendar is booked with things you agreed to out of emotional debt. Thanks, Mom." Number 13, comparing you to other kids. Why can't you be more like Jessica? Well, maybe because Jessica's a sociopath and I like coloring dinosaurs. Ah yes, the Olympic sport of childhood. Constant comparison. No medal, just the creeping suspicion that no matter what you do, it's never quite enough. You weren't just being raised. You were being benchmarked against cousins, neighbors, that one kid who played the violin blindfolded. Everyone was doing life better than you, apparently. Now you can't even enjoy your own wins without mentally checking if someone else did it faster, younger, and with better lighting. You scroll through social media like a self-esteem punching bag. You don't just want to succeed, you want to beat Jessica, even though she peaked at 17 and sells detox tea on Instagram now. But that scoreboard in your head, still running. And guess who's always in last place? Number 12, the crime of wanting privacy. You locked your door once and suddenly you were hiding something. Wanting privacy wasn't independence. It was seen as betrayal. In your house, asking for space was like announcing a coup. Close your door? Suspicious? Keep a diary? What are you plotting? Privacy wasn't a boundary. It was a red flag. You weren't a growing human. You were a walking threat assessment. So you learned to perform openness or disappear entirely. Now, you either overshare like it's a TED Talk or keep everything locked up like you're running a secret government program. Trust, selectively applied. Vulnerability, only with strangers, online, or pets. Your Notes app has a passcode. Your Google searches are cleared like you're hiding state secrets. And you still feel a weird twinge of guilt for locking the bathroom door. Thanks, childhood. Number 11, motivated by humiliation and shame. You're wearing that? Wow, a B+? Encouragement came with a side of humiliation, and sometimes that was the main course. Every mistake, outfit, or less than perfect grade was fair game. They weren't correcting you, they were roasting you. Shame wasn't accidental, it was strategic. The idea was simple: embarrass you into excellence. But instead of building confidence, it built a lifelong habit of self-doubt. Now, you pre-apologize for your opinions, reread texts 5 times before hitting send, and call yourself an idiot for dropping your keys. You don't just fear failure, you expect punishment for being anything less than flawless. And worst of all, you still hear their voice in your head when you try something new. Spoiler alert, that voice is not helpful. Number 10, no apologies ever. They messed up, but you had to say sorry. Why? Because parents are never wrong. If you ever got a real apology from a grown-up, it probably came with a sandwich or an awkward silence. Never the words, "I was wrong." Accountability wasn't modeled, it was dodged like a dodgeball from hell. Mistakes got swept under the rug and you were expected to move on. Or better yet, apologize for making things tense. Now, you're the adult who says sorry when someone else steps on your foot. You apologize to furniture. You apologize to your phone when it drops. You've turned sorry into a verbal tick, even when you're just existing. It's not because you're polite, it's because you were taught that keeping the peace was more important than being right. And now you say sorry not to fix things, but to make sure no one's mad, even when it's a chair. Number 9, making you the therapist. Mom's crying, dad's venting. You're 9. They called it being mature. But really, you were just the closest unpaid counselor in the house. You didn't get support, you gave it. You absorbed stress you didn't create. You were the calm one, the stable one, the one who understood, but you weren't mature. You were drafted. Now, you're the go-to fixer, the emotional sponge, the one who holds it all together and for everyone but yourself. You don't know how to ask for help because you were trained to be help. Vulnerability feels selfish. Saying, "I'm not okay," feels like breaking a rule. They offloaded their baggage onto you, then praised you for carrying it so well. Number 8. Go hug Uncle Larry. The same Uncle Larry who smells like radiator fluid and watches too closely? Cool, cool, cool. Your first lessons in social interaction weren't about comfort. They were about compliance. Didn't feel like hugging someone? Too bad. Your feelings were optional. Making others comfortable was the priority, even if it meant ignoring your own instincts. So you smiled when you didn't want to. You hugged when it felt wrong. And you learned that saying no made you difficult. Fast forward, and now you struggle to set boundaries without feeling like a monster. You tolerate awkward touches, fake laugh through weird conversations, and panic at the thought of saying, "Actually, I'd rather not." Turns out, people-pleasing didn't start in adulthood. It started in childhood, with a scratchy sweater, an old man's cologne, and a forced smile that said, "I'm fine." Number 7. Because I said so. You asked a question. They answered with a wall. No logic, no explanation, just raw authority in sentence form. Because I said so wasn't a response. It was a mic drop, a verbal brick to the face of curiosity. You weren't supposed to understand, you were supposed to obey. So now you hesitate to ask questions. You nod in meetings when you're confused. You Google stuff in private like you're planning a heist, because deep down, you still think asking why makes you difficult. Turns out it wasn't about keeping you safe, it was about keeping control. And now your inner child still flinches every time someone says, "Just trust me." Number 6. Gaslighting reality. That never happened. You're making things up. They didn't just deny what happened. They rewrote the whole episode, cast themselves as the victim, and handed you the guilt. You started keeping receipts in your head like a lawyer preparing for trial just to defend your own memory. You weren't sensitive. You were being strategically confused. And over time, you stopped trusting your own eyes, ears, and gut. You'd feel something was wrong, but second-guess yourself into silence. Now, you need confirmation from 5 people before you believe your own experience. You narrate events out loud just to feel real, because if no one else saw it, maybe it didn't happen, right? Wrong. It did. They just couldn't handle accountability, so they handed you doubt instead. Number 5. The Clean Plate Club, where guilt was the side dish. There are starving kids who'd love to eat that. Cool, but how does me eating cold broccoli help them exactly? Dinner wasn't just dinner, it was a moral test. Leaving a bite behind meant you were ungrateful, disrespectful, possibly responsible for global famine. So, you kept chewing long after you were full, just to avoid the look. This wasn't about nutrition. It was about guilt. You weren't taught to listen to your body. You were taught to override it. Now, you feel weirdly bad for throwing away crusts, and you eat sad leftovers you don't want just to prove you're not wasteful. You're not hungry. You're performing gratitude with calories. Number 4. Withholding affection, unless you performed. Straight A's? A hug. Failed math. Silence. Love wasn't a given. It was a prize. You didn't earn affection by being, you earned it by achieving. Mess up, and the warmth vanished. Succeed, and suddenly they remembered your name. So now, you chase validation like a gambler at a slot machine, hoping this time it'll pay out. You overwork, overachieve, overthink, and when someone offers love freely, no strings attached, you get suspicious. Because your wiring says love comes after excellence, never before it, and deep down you still think being enough has to be earned. Number 3. Helicopter parenting. Smothered, not safe. They hovered like military drones. Every move monitored, every risk removed. You didn't get freedom, you got surveillance. Crossing the street required a debrief. Choosing your own clothes felt like a diplomatic summit. You weren't nurtured, you were managed. Now you're either paralyzed by tiny decisions or out here free-falling through life just to feel something. You double-check everything, or you check nothing. Because no one ever taught you balance, just fear and rebellion in alternating doses. Turns out, being overprotected doesn't make you feel safe. It just makes you unsure you can survive without a handler. Number 2, public humiliation as discipline. Keep acting up, I'll embarrass you right here. And they did, in front of everyone. Discipline wasn't behind closed doors. It was broadcast like a live show. Grocery store tantrum? Cue the verbal takedown. Misstep at school? Prepare for the sarcastic retelling in front of guests. You weren't corrected. You were shamed into submission. And now, you flinch when someone raises their voice. You apologize when attention shifts your way. And your brain still replays those moments at 3 a.m. like a greatest hits album of shame. The message stuck. Making mistakes is bad, but being seen making them is unforgivable. Number 1, we only want what's best for you. What they meant, we want you to live our version of your life. It sounded caring, even noble. But underneath the smiles and suggestions was a full-blown blueprint for who you were supposed to be. Doctor, lawyer, married by 28, house by 30, 2 kids, and a crippling fear of failure. Your passions, cute hobbies, your dreams, only valid if they fit the family brand. So now every decision feels like a betrayal. You chase approval before joy. And when you finally go after what you want, guilt tags along like an unwanted +1. Because even when you break the mold, part of you still whispers, "Am I disappointing them?" If this felt uncomfortably familiar, you're not broken. You adapted. A lot of what we call just who I am is actually survival mode wearing a smile. But you don't have to keep living on defense. Healing starts with awareness. Drop a comment if something resonated, or if you're just tired of apologizing to furniture. And hey, you're not alone in this. Thanks for watching.